Dave, awesome to have you on the World of Procurement podcast. And it's good to have you because you're also doing wonderful things in the space. And you work currently for a fairly large retail company. I won't mention the names. I'll leave that to you if you want to mention it. But obviously, COVID has ripped apart a lot of retail at the moment. Is a lot of big companies have gone bust, and it'd be interesting to get your perspectives on the impacts in that environment, especially from the procurement perspective.
It's been absolutely massive for us, and agility has been absolutely key. So getting if we wind the clock back to March, so suddenly having to all leave the office, work remotely, keep the procurement projects going, but also get the PPE for our branches, close down a lot of the John Lewis branches securely, and the impact that had on suppliers, so renegotiating maintenance contracts for those branches because they didn't need maintaining anymore. And it's been a time when procurement has really come to its own, and a lot more people in our organisation now know who we are and the value we can bring. Beyond just savings, which is potentially where procurement has typically, sat in the past. A few of our suppliers have gone out of business in the period, and we've had to suddenly find new suppliers at short notice. And the other learning is governance has had to be very, very, very agile. So when we've been competing with other companies to get PPE in so we can keep our Waitroses open, we found ourselves in a place where some of the governance that we had historically just wasn't appropriate. So we needed to make a decision on getting 1 million face masks instantly, and there wasn't time for governance, for the normal kind of approval cycles. So that real agility and speed of decision making and bringing people into tribe type mentality from across the whole partnership, something that I really hope we continue moving forwards when the crisis is over. It's been a really good time for us, but challenging.
Yeah, I was just thinking then how you were saying about the whole agility piece, because sometimes procurement is a little bit slow, laborious. It hides behind process. Is that one of the sort of skill sets that may come out of this, or one of the new directions, is that procurement maybe doesn't hide behind that whole process governance model as much as it might have, and it has a bit more, whether flexibility or creativity is the right words to push forward with what it needs to achieve?
It's a balance. It's a real balancing act. So you need to have the creativity in the function and the speed of decision making in the function, but at the same time, being a retailer, we can't ever find ourselves in a place where we've got some slaves in one of our Waitrose farms. So it's always a balancing act between speed and agility, and reducing risk, and that's the playoff. And I'd say what we have found is in a crisis is how we can make those trade-offs a lot more faster than we would have done historically. But we're never going to be in a place where we have no governance and no process. It's just how can we do it a lot quicker to protect ourselves, but also be really fast.
Yeah, definitely. And just out of curiosity, really, how has having a working from home, I guess a new culture built up around that suddenly overnight? How's that affected your day-to-day procurement? Has it made any barriers? Have you seen any improvements in the way in which people are getting on with their work?
So a good example is we're currently completely redesigning our whole digital landscape. We're rolling out a new source to settle system end to end.
Okay.
And we started the design of the project just before lockdown. And then we went into lockdown, and you would think, and I thought it myself, how are we going to deliver this massive transformation and run all these workshops and get everyone engaged in it, etc. But what I actually found is that we're actually able to deliver it a lot faster
Oh, wow.
Because you're no longer constrained by meeting rooms. You know, Joe Bloggs is in Bracknell that day and the workshop's in London, so you can't have the workshop. You have to delay the workshop for 3 weeks, or there's no meeting rooms available in a particular location. So it's actually, and people are more readily available as well than they were before. So when we were in physical offices, I would find the execs would be booked up for several weeks.
Yeah.
Now you can get hold of people relatively quickly compared to how you could before, because people seem to be planning in a more short-term, agile way. There are, clearly challenges to it as well. So how you create that team dynamic and that motivation and keep your team engaged and in touch with each other has been, is an ongoing focus of mine, certainly doing that. But on the whole, it's been positive.
No, there's some really, they're nice insights to hear, because I've seen, and you've probably seen it on LinkedIn, because we both spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. There's like almost two camps: the people who absolutely love this new working from home vibe, and then there's a whole raft of people that absolutely hate it. And I often find that the negativity often outweighs the people who are actually singing the praises. So it's good to hear that you're still being able to deliver, although there are still challenges. I mean, post-COVID now, and who knows what the world's going to look like, what the outlook's going to be. And I've had a couple of conversations with people actually in the last week on this very topic of where is procurement going, what kind of skills are going to be needed, what's our day-to-day work going to look like. I mean, it'd be cool to hear your perspectives, your views on any of that as well, Dave.
So much broader remit, and I'm very passionate about it. As you know, I've written a few articles on it on LinkedIn as of you. And there is a real opportunity for procurement to jump on COVID and deliver even more, because suddenly we've been really needed by businesses and organisations. We haven't always had that need before, but the key areas of focus that I think for procurement and the opportunity is the circular economy.
Yeah, I like that.
I loved. This is a bit of a spurious example, but I loved I love Banksy and what he gets up to. And yesterday, it transpires that he has funded a boat in the Mediterranean that is rescuing migrants and asylum seekers that are trying to get over on dinghies. And he emailed this lady who runs these boats and basically said, "Hi, it's Banksy here. I've made loads of money from art about migrants. Clearly, I shouldn't pocket the cash myself. Can I give it to you so you can buy a boat?" And that's a strange example of the circular economy. But procurement is, I think, the only function in the organisation that is the centre of the spider web, and to bring all these various strings together to drive that, forward. So that's one theme. The next theme is digitisation. Clearly, we talk about it. We talk about it a lot. Automation. My advice to anyone, if they're sitting there spending the days doing tender processes, negotiating contracts, and they doing that broadly the same way as a repeatable process, etc., get your mindset out of that, because that kind of role won't exist in the future. We'll move to a place where a lot of that is automated. And then the final thing is, and the real opportunity for procurement is the business partnering and driving the innovation. We're still not there on the whole. We're still viewed as getting involved at the end of the day in deals. Those, but the real, and everyone. And I should do a plug for the Sustainable Procurement Ambassadors. I think there's some really good work being done. SPP.F. So get involved in that, because that is really driving the value that procurement can bring.
Yeah, I think I love that you mentioned the circular economy because I don't hear a lot of procurement people talk about this. I see on LinkedIn the biggest advocate of it is Deborah Dole, who has the. I'm trying to think of her podcast and organization. I think it's like Supply Chain Revolution, and she does amazing things on that. If you're not aware of her, and
No,
she
I'm
talks
not.
about it all
No.
the time. So I can always connect you with her, and it's something that I think effectively what you were saying there is almost procurement are, like you say, bang in the middle of all of that to bring all that
Mhm.
together and really drive that sustainability
Yeah,
element through what I guess almost regardless of what industry you're supporting
yeah,
in your procurement
yeah.
activities as well. It's applicable to all of them. So yeah, I thought there were some great insights there, Dave. And I want to move on because I think throughout this whole lockdown, people have been more creative than they've ever been in their lives. Like I found it really interesting and actually really freeing for a lot of lockdown because there's suddenly you're forced to stay in your house for a lot of the time.
Yeah,
I mean, at one
yeah,
point in the UK, I think we were allowed to go out once a day, weren't we, for exercise?
yeah, yeah,
Effect,
yeah,
and I can't remember how many months that lasted, but I was taking the dog out, and that was it. I was like, oh, I can't actually go out again to do anything for me. I was just taking my dog out for a walk, so I had to had to try and find other things to do. And one of those was trying to play this guitar that's just behind me here, which I still can't play. I finished the book I was writing, and that was great. But what you did, at least what I know you've done, is set up Procmeet, which is a wonderful new. Well, actually, I'm not going to talk. I'll let you talk about it. That's what you're here for.
it's been it blew me away, is how I'd say. So it was random idea I had sitting on the sofa one night. Do any of my LinkedIn mates basically fancy a coffee with my post? And it was viewed by 25,000 people
Wow,
and commented
wow,
commented by hundreds of people. So I suddenly it went to a whole new level. I had to get myself a Zoom Premium account to
yeah.
to kind of
Okay.
cope with it, rather than being like five or six of us. But what it is, it's basically I try and make it not about procurement. So people join, they join a central room, normally about 40, 50 people in a session, and we just have a conversation. I will move people around breakout rooms, about five or six people, maybe eight people in a room randomly, or Zoom will do it for me actually.
Yeah.
And then they have a chat, and I will give them the questions. So, for example, what's your proudest achievement recently? What have you used lockdown to do more of? Um, what's the most famous celebrity you've ever met? So it's
Yeah, I
not
get that.
directly it's not directly procurement related, but I know that people have found it really helpful in meeting each other and building those relationships. And it's gone on, I know people have gone on to do some great stuff together off the back of it. So it's been really rewarding, I would say, is the word to use
Yeah.
to do it. It's been great.
So, I mean, obviously, this started off as sitting on the sofa, probably with a cup of tea in hand, thinking of all sorts of wonderful things, and this came to mind. Do you have any goals for it now, or what you trying to do? Are you just trying to keep it effectively? What it is just a casual conversation. Is it like a couple times a month? I know you took all of August off so that you could actually have some time off as well.
Yeah,
What are you trying to do with it?
keep it keep it going. But I'm speaking to a few guys about potential spin-offs from it. So there's quite a few startups involved in it. So there's four or five that Jason, Seb,
Yeah,
Tom, and various other guys are doing awesome stuff.
yeah,
And I think they would benefit from a opportunity to just have a casual chat with people like you, Dan, actually, myself, others. Here's what we're doing with our business. What do you think? What are your pain points? How can we build our product to kind of solve those pain points?
yeah.
So that's one kind of spin-off. So that kind of facilitated conversation, and then other ones are just continuing it, growing it, getting more people involved in it, and just keeping it going. I don't have any particular agenda points for it, but it could certainly grow.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I think, I mean, like I said, I failed to get to any of them because I've had other things on, especially doing this. It takes up way too much of my time, which actually I was just thinking about it. As you were saying, like you started this at lockdown, I was just thinking like all of this for me started in March at lockdown as well. So it's bizarre to see how things actually, I think things have grown faster in lockdown than ever before if you have done it in the right way, in the sense that you've gone digitally native with how you've done things. It's not easy to grow, but the opportunity to grow is there, I think. And I think that's probably the same for businesses. You've seen the direct to consumer model grow suddenly significantly, which is obviously going to impact your retail in-store experiences. But I think it's great to see Procmeet. I was just having a look to see how many members you had. Not that I'm into vanity numbers and all of that, but you've got a solid 100+ members in a LinkedIn group, which is a crazy good start from just an idea on the sofa. And like you said, I've seen the screenshots of your meetings. There's just little squares across the whole screen. It's insane. And one thing I found since I've been doing this podcast is that procurement people actually love to talk about what they're up to and just almost share knowledge. And I know, strictly speaking, what you're saying is what you're doing is just getting people together for a cup of tea, like a coffee break or a tea break, and keeping it a little bit less about work and just more about building a relationship. But I think it's still the same point applies, that people in this profession do love to talk to each other, which is almost you don't see it everywhere else. I've certainly not seen it. I don't see all the sales guys or sales people, just because I feel like that term's a little bit sexist actually, meeting up and having these sort of group discussions. Everyone, it's a little bit more closed off. So yeah, I think it's been really cool to see that. I mean, how can people get involved with Procmeet? That's probably the next question I want to ask.
Yeah, so the best thing is just find the group on LinkedIn. And jump on the group, and then within the group you'll find the Zoom registration page, and then sign up, and then just join. It's going to be every 2 weeks. And the other change that people will see is I'm going to have big guest hosts as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So you're very welcome to host one if you want.
I'm not sure about live events. That's why I do podcasts. It's just one person.
You better join one of my events first before you host it.
I think so.
But yeah, just jump on, and everyone's welcome. Procurement professionals. I'm not excluding salespeople. Because
it's
they have
needed.
A lot of value, but my only rule is I don't want any selling at all.
Yeah, don't start spamming people in like the message or message chat box on Zoom. That's not cool. It's not a good way. I'll make sure all your Procmeet stuff is included wherever it needs to be as part of this conversation when it goes live. Right. So it'll be in the description, show notes, whatever you want to call it. Everything will be there. People can just click below. They can connect with you on LinkedIn, join the Procmeet LinkedIn group, and I won't put any links to the specific meetings, because by the time we're chatting on I'm trying to think of the date, the 28th of August here, and this episode probably won't go live until October. So it's pointless doing the current one. But Dave, it's been awesome talking to you. We kind of wanted to blitz through a few different subjects. We want to talk about Procmeet, future procurement, and impact of COVID, and how it's affected, especially your retail sector, because I think not many people talk about that. So if I don't come across too many people in retail, in the procurement space. I don't know if it's just me. I've just not come across too many people. So your insights have been great. So thanks for jumping on the podcast today.
No worries. It's been brilliant. Thanks, Dan.